There is a place in Bolivia where the ground seems to disappear, and I mean that in a literal sense, not a metaphoric one. After rainfall, the horizon seems to dissolve and the earth becomes almost a perfect mirror down to your feet. This is Salar de Uyuni, the largest salt flat on the planet, stretching over 10,000 square kilometers in southwest Bolivia. From space, it looks like a frozen ocean, but on the ground, it might feel like walking across the surface of another world. But this endless white mirror is more than beautiful. It is the fossil of an ancient lake, a storehouse of the future's lithium, and home to one of the strangest ecosystems on Earth. But thousands of years ago, this area wasn't a salt desert. It was part of a massive prehistoric lake system called Lake Minchin, which covered much of Bolivia's Altiplano Plateau. As the climate shifted and the Andes continued rising, the lake gradually evaporated, and what remained was simply the salt. Over time, layer upon layer of salt crust formed, and that crust is several meters thick in some places. Beneath it lies a brine rich in lithium, magnesium, and other minerals. The surface hardens into geometric hexagonal patterns, created cycles of evaporation and crystallization. Almost at a stage where the ground is constantly rearranging itself in slow motion, you'd be standing on the remains of water that vanished thousands of years ago. For most of the year, Salar de Uyuni is a blinding white expanse, but during the rainy season, typically from December to April, a very thin sheet of water covers the salt crust. Because the surface is almost perfectly flat, the water spreads evenly. There are no slopes or dips, just a shallow film that reflects the sky with a near perfect symmetry. The result is one of the most surreal natural illusions on the planet. Photographers love it because depth perception collapses and it makes it seem that people appear to float. Objects can appear gigantic or miniature depending on their placement, and the landscape becomes visual trickery, bending the scale and distance of the object. But unlike most mirrors, this one stretches for miles on end. Now, at first glance, Salar de Uyuni kind of looks lifeless, but it does actually play a crucial ecological role. During the wet season, parts of the salt flat become breeding grounds for several species of flamingos, including the Andean, Chilean, and James's flamingos. They feed on microorganisms and algae that thrive in the mineral-rich water. What looks like a sterile wasteland becomes a temporary nursery for thousands of birds. One of the islands in Salar de Uyuni, Incahuasi, rise from the salt flat like a shipwreck. These rocky outcrops host giant cacti that can grow over 10 meters tall. These islands are like remnants of an ancient volcano, biological islands in a sea of salt. Now, beneath the surface lies something that makes this place geopolitically significant. Salar de Uyuni holds one of the largest known lithium reserves in the world, as lithium is a critical component in things like batteries in electric vehicles, smartphones, and renewable energy storage systems. So, in other words, this ancient lakebed may help power the transition away from fossil fuels. But lithium extraction is rather complex. It involves pumping brine to the surface and evaporating it to concentrate the minerals. This process can affect local water supplies in an already arid region, which raise environmental and social concerns. So the situation of Salar de Uyuni can be described as a crossroads of being a symbol of natural beauty and the future of global energy. For the local Aymara communities, this landscape is not just a tourist attraction or a mineral deposit. It's a part of their very own ancestral history. Salt blocks are still harvested and used for construction and preservation. Entire hotels have been built from the salt bricks from this salt pan. Tourism now plays a major role in the regional economy, bringing visitors from around the world to witness the mirror effect. What was now once an isolated high-altitude basin has become one of South America's most iconic destinations. Long story short, the Salar de Uyuni is simply the remains of a vanished lake which now reflects the sky. It appears empty, yet the immediate surrounding region sustains quite abundant wildlife. It may look ancient, yet shapes the future of energy. It feels quite otherworldly, yet it is a product of an entirely natural process. It can serve as a simple reminder to us that landscapes are not static, significantly more dynamic than what might appear in photos. And sometimes, when the conditions are just right, the Earth holds up a mirror and lets us see both the past and the future at the same time.